morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's joining us today for our conversation on Black History Month. And our topic today is Live for a Cause, conversation about Harriet Tubman. And I'd like to welcome David Rogers to our conversation. Good morning, David.
And good morning to you. How are you?
So, I'm good, thank you very much. David, before we begin, could you share a little bit about yourself?
All right, I'm from Canada, Canadian-born, British father, Canadian-born, Chinese mother, raised in an area of Canada called Malton. And for some people, Malton was an experiment 50 years ago, where we had people from all different cultures. We had people from Jamaica, people from Trinidad, people from India. They came together right near the airport in Malton, Ontario, and it was like an experiment of cross-culture. And as I've talked to some of my friends from 50 years ago, they're actually very proud of the fact that we were one of the first melting pots where people got the opportunity to learn from each other, dance with each other, play sports, and fight each other in a way that allowed us to really develop a respect for different cultures.
Wonderful, thank you. And also joining us is Tolu Adeosun. Hi,
Yes.
Tolu.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Tolu.
Good morning. Can you take a few minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm Tolu. I'm Nigerian Canadian. So I was born in Nigeria, and then we immigrated to Canada in 1990. And I actually lived all over Canada. So I've lived in Nova Scotia, I lived in New Brunswick, lived in Quebec, Ontario. So and now I find myself living in GTA and with a family. I got a husband, I have 2 children. I am also a social worker and a few other things. I've been trying out a few other things, trying to decide what I will call myself next.
And I love what you're wearing today, Tolu. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. It's actually a necklace from South Africa. My sister bought it for us when she went to South Africa. So I thought I would represent today.
I'm
Beautiful.
thrilled. I love the South African energy, and I've really enjoyed meeting many people from Nigeria here in Canada. So I have a feeling our wonderful host is going to lead us to having some wonderful discussion.
Well, for myself, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and like yourselves, I come from a diverse background in terms of our cultural mix between my parents. And so for me, it's really important to take a look at Black History Month, because for me, I feel it's a month, and not just this month alone, but every day, a time to reflect on who our ancestors are and our grandparents and where we are today. And so, live for a cause. This is a quote that came from Harriet Tubman herself. And so from a very early age, she realized early her purpose in life. And so when we look at her, or when I look at her, she's described as somebody who was a nurse, a spy, a scout during the time in which she lived from, she was born in 1823 to 1913. And she's looked upon as a leader and a liberator and a humanitarian. And I'm really curious to get your views on what she means to you as well, not just from that perspective, but what she brings just as who she is as a human being. So one of the things that I've always been curious is, where do you think, or where do you feel she learned resistance, being somebody who was born into that type of environment of slavery? I'll start with you, Tolu.
Well, I'm assuming that, just based on the things that we've learned about back then in slavery, that she probably learned it from people around her. Saw it. I did some reading on her background and her parents, and so I'm guessing she probably saw people, because I think at one point something was thrown at her head and she suffered a head injury. So she probably saw people being resistant and standing up, but I think she realized that there was more in her and she could do more. And so she saw people trying probably to the best that they could try, or what they felt comfortable to do. But I think she decided, I'm going to be more of a risk taker. I'm going to do more. Like you said, she believed she had a greater purpose. So I look at her as someone that, realized that, hey, people are doing stuff, but I'm going to take it to another level.
David? Do you want to add to that?
Wow, I've really played with this dynamic a lot because on the one hand, she was a criminal. She was breaking the law. She was helping people run away from their owners. And so from a strictly legal perspective, she was a lawbreaker. Yet on the other perspective, on the humanity side, on the human dignity side, is that she saw laws that were not appropriate anymore, and she wanted to be part of the change. So she was a rebel with a cause, and she had an inner force. In fact, I think I've shared a little bit of, if you think of Harriet Tubman and the first word of her last name is a T, I really get the energy of tenacious. Like, this woman was tenacious, and she had a cause that was higher than herself.
Mhm.
So what do you feel we can learn from her? Or let me take it back a little bit. So here's a young woman, probably a teenager, not probably, she, from what we know, she was not a very big woman. She was very petite.
Under 5 foot.
So here she is. She's developed all these skills. She's learned how to communicate. I mean, to be able to negotiate and find her way through and to lead people through the Underground Railroad. So she's found a way to use her communication skills, her ingenuity. She relied on her spiritual parts of herself to keep her strength. She eventually later became an advocate for women's rights and for the aged, and also became the humanitarian in the sense of she started a home for the aged. So if she was able to develop all of these skills, probably as a late teen, why do you feel that history still downplays these traits in women? And why are we as women still trying to show that we are more than what we are projected in media or in certain things that we read? Why do you feel that history still downplays these strong traits about women? Tolu, do you want to start?
You know, I'm thinking as you're talking, and to be honest, I think they've always felt that women weren't as capable. And so when she was an anomaly, you know, and so it's like, well, that was just that one person, or that was just whatever, versus that actually maybe all women can do this and can be equally as capable as men, or even more. So I think because the way they've always approached how women are, and that we're lesser than, like, because going back to, we weren't allowed to vote till, you know, okay, I don't remember the exact year, but we weren't allowed to vote for the longest time. Okay, I'm not a historian. Okay, that's not my strong suit.
That's
but,
okay.
So I do believe, and then we weren't working and all these things. So I do believe they've never thought we could do more. So when we started to show we were capable, we can rebel, we can stand up for ourselves. We can, you know, during the war, I do believe that's when more women came together and they started to work it because the men weren't around. So when, I think that's when, like, oh, okay, they can do something, but they just can't still do it as good as us. They get emotional, they get whatever. And so those traits that were not seen as, you know, masculine, were always what I believe was a barrier for us. And so they would say, oh no, but their emotions would get in their way. They're too hysterical. And so I think that, yeah, so when a woman does step up and is she's an exception versus could be the norm.
David, do you want to go on?
Well, yeah, I believe that we've had a history. And if we go back again, when we talk about Harriet Tubman, we're going back when she passed over was 1913. When she was born was 1822. So we're going back 100 years, 200 years. And so now we're in 2021. And are we making progress? There's some people who are looking at statistics saying we are making progress, yet the progress is so slow. The progress in women's leadership is still being slowed down. Now, some of those dynamics of slowing down have to do with what a family component is, and women taking perhaps time out to have children, and perhaps not being as, quote, committed or dedicated to their profession. And so are traits of society that has perhaps played women's roles in the household, yet I am noticing it is evolving, it is changing, it is progressing. And I have worked in a number of women's groups, and they say if we continue to make progress at this rate, things, pay equity will come in 2300, like a couple hundred years. So it's not moving as fast as people who want the change to happen today to occur. So
Why do why do you feel it's not moving as fast? With women are demonstrating that we can multitask, we can take on these challenges. I mean, she took on a role in the Civil War. She led a troop to help release some of the slaves that were trapped down in around the southern parts of the United States. So if she was trusted to carry a rifle, and we today can't even get pay equity, why is it taking so long?
Well, again, from a United Nations study on pay equity, and this is something that was taught to me in Singapore through the Keynote Women Speakers, which again is an organization that is encouraging more women to be on panels, more women to be in conversations on platforms. And so they shared with me, and it's a wonderful lady, Joanne Flynn. Again, part of the reason, again, if you distill where the highest paid jobs are, they tend to be in the STEM profession. So you're talking about science, technology, engineering, mathematics. It technically, like statistically, more men go into those fields. So statistically, those jobs are paid higher. So that's one of the reasons why men still have a higher pay inequity, yet equal jobs for equal work. There are improvements in the education, in the nursing, in different fields that we are talking about it, we're having conversation about it, and it's being brought up, and then healthy dialogue and change is occurring. And so that's a little bit of the back and forth that I was exposed to through a healthy conversation and a leadership of women. Like right now, the number of S&P 500 companies that are led by women is still a minority, yet the number is growing. Now, is it growing as fast as some people would say? No, it's not. We got to do a lot more. The other side is, do we have the resources to actually increase the probability of success of some of the women leaders who are moving into the C-suite? And so that's part of the horse before the cart, cart before the horse, and some of the dynamics that are going on.
So Tolu, sorry, Tolu, with regards to what Dave just said, and as your work in social work, when you are working with women who are rebuilding their lives, and you are seeing some of their resiliency as they're going through their rebuilding, what are you learning from them, and what are your strengths that you're using to guide them to become somebody who is interested in STEM, as Dave mentioned, or any career that they're interested in achieving?
Well, you know, the thing is, I've had young ladies come in and say like, oh, you know, I want to pursue this. Like I have one particular lady that says she wants to pursue medicine and wants to be a doctor, but I think her family wasn't super supportive of that, or they didn't really believe she could do it. And I told her, if that's what you want to do, that's what you believe that you are called to do, then don't ever let any voice stop you, right? So it's instilling that self-confidence in them when they're lacking it, and helping them to feel empowered so that they can go on this journey regardless of what the naysayers say. And so I've had people come to me, like women, where, you know, they're being bullied and harassed at work, and they're deciding, and one of them actually was basically like they, you know, investigated something, they got her out of the workplace, like they let her go, you know, without cause. And so, you know, just watching how this woman that was used to be like a director just completely like breaking down, and like you know, and just feeling lost, and like, because this is, she felt she failed, she felt she was good at what she did and no longer had that as an identity. And so being able to walk her through about, well, let's look at who you are. Let's look at all the other things that you are besides your career. And then what else would you pursue right now? Because this is not an option at this point in time, right? And just so trying to help people discover their other passions or what they would have done if they weren't working this job. And then recognizing also that it took so much of her time. She was so dedicated to it, right? And realizing that, there's no point in dedicating something to for people, or to people that at the end of the day you are disposable. So you might as well, give them your best, of course, when you can or whatever, but also maybe pursue something else that will benefit you and that would help you to feel like you are living in your purpose and your passion.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of guidance do you give these young women and when it comes to trying to figure out what their passion is?
I always ask them, what makes you smile? What do you enjoy doing? What would you do if you could do something, not get paid for it? Like, what would you do? I mean, if money was not a problem, that's what I meant. If money was not an issue, what would you actually do? And oftentimes that's where we start from. And it's like, if I wave a magic wand, and everything was just whatever, there's no issues, you could just do whatever, what would you do? And then we start to explore from there. And and I've used that in my own life, right? Because I've talked about how I started a music label. I've always loved music. I had the opportunity to start a choir at work, right? I never thought I would ever be a choir director, but then I realized, and I can write songs. So from there, I said, you know what, why don't I do something in this industry? Because I have the skills and abilities to, and I have really good people skills. So I was able to start a label and get artists all the way from Nigeria to sing my songs for me, and artists here, right? But it was recognizing that this is something I'm passionate about and it's worth pursuing.
So initially you had mentioned that this individual felt that the people around her felt that she couldn't pursue this career. How important is it to have that kind of support when you do choose a career as a woman, and knowing that you do need some sort of a mentor in your life? What do you feel is necessary when it comes to that kind of support? And where can a woman get that support if she is feeling that she's not getting it from her immediate family members?
I think it's necessary to have one or two people, whether it's your friends, but somebody that's in your corner that will just tell you, you go for it. Like you want this, you can do it. We know you, we know you're determined. So when it's not family members, when it's not people that you think would, be there for you, there's always going to be somebody that will believe in you. So it's trying to find out who that is. And that might just be a therapist too. That might just be a therapist that says, hey, from what I know, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like you want this thing. Why not? And just keep encouraging the person. So what was the second part of your question? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, so if they don't feel that they have that support in their immediate circle, what sort of things can they do to get that support?
Yeah. So, I mean, like going out for help to, or looking for people in the field, a mentor, and just saying, hey, I'm interested in this career. I'm interested in this thing. Would you mind taking me on as a mentee and just learning? I want to learn more and really know if this is really what I want, or people really truly know me well. And they know I wouldn't do well in this field. And but I always just tell people, like, even if everybody else is against you, if you feel that conviction that this is something that you want to do and that you can do, because oftentimes people don't see us for really who we are. And this is why it's important to have that self-confidence and have that self-esteem, because when everybody else wants to tell you, no, don't do it, you need to be able to have something to stand on and not be moved and be wavering to and fro, right? So you need to have something to stand on. And I believe that goes back to the self.
So Dave, with that last comment from Tolu, when we look at Harriet Tubman, Harriet Tubman did not have that blanket of support, and yet she was still able to move forward with what she achieved in freeing some of the slaves. How would you address that? What would you say is key to her remaining motivated?
In the stories that I've read and watched, is that she basically didn't have anybody. In fact, when she first fled, her brothers all stayed. And so she had to push through by herself. And so sometimes we have those situations in life where we have to step through on faith. And she was definitely a woman of faith and had a very strong connection with her God, and prayed and felt guided by God. And the first time when she got through, there was a arrival for her. Yet when she arrived, she then became even more determined to go back and help more. And then she developed more self-esteem and more confidence, go help more. So in many parts of our journey, and I look at her journey as a combination of the hero's journey, which is taught by Joseph Campbell, and the shero's journey. And the shero's journey is when you go inside, and while your mother and your father say you can't be a singer or a dancer, no, you make it happen. And there's an inner spirit, an inner conviction that you go and do it, and you fall down and you get up, and you fall down and you get up. Can you imagine Harriet in the darkest skies, being chased by dogs and by slave hunters, and her going and pushing forward? So I have a feeling again that tenacity, that unstoppable bravery, that does come a little bit from inside, and then is perhaps reinforced from external, yet where that external confirmation, it often is not going to be from the people who know you best.
Yeah, I agree. Can I actually just add to that? The one thing
Sure.
also that I can tell, and I've learned personally, but also is that stop talking. Like if they start to say no, don't, like it's not gonna whatever, then you need to just stop going to the people that, even though it's the people that you thought you could count on, that believe you in, or you thought they believed in you, or you thought they loved you. If they, once you hear that no, or you can't do this thing or whatever, just stop, because eventually you will get discouraged. Stop talking to them. Like, and I don't mean like don't be friendly, don't whatever, but just stop talking to them about your dream, your passion, your goals, your ambition, because they're not going to help you at that point. Eventually they'll come around, because they always do, but at that point in time, you need to shut down all the negative voices, and you need to stay within your inner conviction and just keep going.
Yes, because oftentimes they don't see what you're seeing for your dream. And so it sometimes feels like it's a tough road to get to that dream. But as you're saying, that self-belief is so key to keep moving forward. And so what do you feel when we think about Harriet Tubman? What do you feel we can learn from the actions that she took in freeing the slaves and changing the way we now view women and how we view our personal freedoms? What do you feel we're learning from her actions?
Me or Dave?
Dave, you want to start?
What can we learn from Harriet Tubman is a story of celebration, a celebration of this unstoppable woman of change, a brave person who continued to look to make her community better, her situation better, and the situation for others better. And I do have a feeling there was a higher purpose. It certainly wasn't for profit. It wasn't to become famous. She didn't want to become the #1 influencer in 1888. She wanted to make a difference in people's lives, and she was willing to risk her life to do so. And if you study the later years, when she continued to work on the movements of the women's suffrage, of the abolishing of the slave trade, she continued to collaborate with people, and people saw value in her because of that ability to, as Tolu said, just not talk about it, get on and do it, and take action and get results. And that's I think something we can learn from, is that there's a lot of talking these days, and there are programs that right now could make a difference in people's lives if you get out there and make a difference. And I think even some of the work that we're doing with just one life, it's like, have a conversation that uplifts one person, that encourages one person to be healthier, happier, fitter. These are actions that we can do on a daily basis, and then it becomes part of our life and our journey and our daily routine. And I think that's something that I definitely take from Harriet Tubman.
Tolu?
Well, I think what it does for women is it shows that when we are determined, that we are more than capable, that we don't need, just that, once again, going back to that conviction. And it's like, if you feel that you can do something, then why not do it? And it doesn't mean you're delusional, doesn't mean whatever. It just means that you have this vision. And we know that she, I believe from that time she got hit on the head, she felt like she was receiving direction and had a special connection with God. And so, who am I to tell you you don't? Especially when you start actually doing that thing, it starts to make sense. And you're like, whoa, you're actually, so I think it's just to learn to, when someone's telling you something that you may not necessarily agree with or believe, as a fellow woman, does not mean you shut that person down, does not mean you discourage them. It just means that, okay, if you don't believe in them, just be quiet and just watch, right? So we can stand and just watch, right? And then maybe eventually we can actually be part of that and help them. But if you initially struggle with believing that this woman or this person is trying to do something, don't say anything bad. Don't make them feel discouraged. You can just hold your tongue and just watch. Okay, so that's one thing. So it's like, so instead of pulling another person down, instead of pulling, let's look and see what they can do, right? And not that you're looking for them to fail, but you're just watching, because it's not that, some people come up with some wild ideas, and it doesn't mean jump on the bandwagon, but hey, be supported by being quiet then. So and then just believe that I think we are women. We are exceptional. When we are driven, we can accomplish. And I believe, like, as a mother, I become even stronger. I'm more confident in myself because I know as a mother, I have this intuition, I have these things, and I don't let anybody or anything stop me, to be honest with you. And I do believe that's why I am where I am today.
And what do you feel is driving you in that regards?
You know what? I feel like there is a higher purpose for my life. I feel like I am meant to do more. I'm meant to reach more people, and more people in the sense of helping them to know who they are, helping them to not live in this life of fear and anxiety and depression, and helping them to realize, get over your past, get over your regrets. I wrote one song actually that, that's about that. It's called Ride With Me. And it says, come along, ride with me. I'll take you to your destiny. Come along, ride with me. It won't be a fantasy. And it goes on to say, you look worried. What's your story? No need to be sorry. It's all history. So what I'm trying to tell you is, and I've lived a life of regrets, right? There's things that you regret. You're like, why did I do that? Why did I do that? But you know what? If you live in the past and you live in your regrets, you will never know what purpose. Maybe there was a purpose behind those things, right? Maybe you will never know what you can be if you keep living in the past.
And so if you were to take your ancestral history and build on what you just shared with us, where do you feel that strength is helping you move forward? When you look at the history and the traditions that you have from your ancestral culture, how is that contributing to where you are today?
Well, in my culture, it's all about get yourself educated. So for me, what I learned was education will get you far. And sure, it does, right? It helps you to be more articulate. It helps you to know how to research something or study something or whatever. So that it's learning that, we can do something. We don't have to accept what life has given us, right? So my dad, decided he wanted to be more and do more. And so he immigrated to Canada before us. And then he brought us, right? And his dad, I think he was a farmer and whatever, and my dad, that's what my dad actually was doing. And then he was also a teacher, and then he was also a pastor. So the other thing I learned is that you can be more than one career. You can have more than one career. You can do more than one thing. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be defined by the main role that you are, but you can continue to evolve yourself.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And like I said, our dad came first to Canada, got settled first, and then the rest of us followed. My mom brought my brother, my sister, and I here. And we learned through them not only resilience, but as Dave mentioned, tenacity, and also strength in family, just, supporting each other and really just having that love and strength, and making, because I feel for me, having both of my parents here and having those difficult conversations around race, because from where I came from, race was not really something in my purview. And so to experience it here was totally a new phenomenon. And then being a woman and being a woman of color, it almost seemed like it was an uphill battle sometimes. And then not understanding why someone would immediately take a dislike to you just because of the color of your complexion or your hair. Hate was foreign to me. And so having those conversations with my parents to help me understand why some people act in the way that they do. And the best advice that I got from them was, you are not the problem. They have a problem. And so in hearing that and getting that affirmation that I'm okay as I am, it really does lift you up and keep you moving forward. And so, Dave, in that regards, what sort of advice would you give to anyone in terms of the support that they need to keep moving forward and to believe in themselves?
Thank you for the question. I find it quite fascinating to be asked to give advice right now. It's one of those topics that it's having a conversation and having the safe space to voice a feeling or an experience. In fact, as I'm reflecting even from some of the things I said earlier, I'm almost regretting, as Tolu was saying, was I mansplaining? And so that concept these days, that there's so many new words in our vocabulary. There's so many new terms that I'm not even very familiar with, and I have never really used very much in my life. So when I'm even asked today to give advice about things, I'm cautious about giving advice because it isn't one size fits all. It truly has become much more find what fits you. And the education system, the political system, the health system was really designed post-war when people were getting ready to go work in assembly lines and they were being, I know some people don't like the term, but we were being dumbed down to provide robotic type of jobs. But now, in the last 25 to 50 years in Canada particularly, we have been encouraging our kids to think, feel, experience. They've got access to technology all around the world. And for us to try to tell them one size fits all, good luck. That's certainly not going to be a very effective parenting strategy or communication strategy. So I guess if I'm to hear that and share a little bit is, I love this dialogue for one thing, is that I'm hearing things from Tolu, I'm hearing things from you, I'm respecting where you're coming from. I'm appreciating being asked. And so if there was some advice, it would be the advice I've sort of gleaned over the last year of being an elderly caregiver. And that's be patient. Let people speak and share. Be compassionate. Maybe empathize with their perspective instead of criticize.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm also encouraging us to find ways to celebrate. Like I really am here celebrating Black History Month. I've learned a little bit from Tolu's experience of being part of Africa, coming to Canada. I've learned from you a little bit of being from Trinidad, coming to Canada. And by having this type of conversation, perhaps we're developing a little more empathy and perhaps that breath to have patience when somebody's trying to get us to hurry up, or if you're driving, somebody's honking at you. It's people tend to be in such a hurry, or at least they were pre-COVID, because today, this past year, I think people have slowed down a lot. Now there definitely is perturbating and stress and depression and other types of challenges. And I guess part of the solution for that is also to slow down and breathe and be well, and then be kind. So that would be my little a roundabout answer to your question.
Okay, so my next question is, as we're looking at Harriet Tubman, is what do you feel is needed now in women's leadership going forward? Now that we know what she's demonstrated in terms of her ingenuity, her ability to communicate, her bravery, her humanitarianism, what do you feel is needed now in women's leadership as we move forward with all the dynamics and the changes and the incremental changes that are now happening, not only in the corporate world, but in all sorts of industries and all the different dynamics in which we collaborate with each other? What are some of the things that we should be thinking about when it comes to women's leadership? Tolu?
I think flexibility. I think, you know, a lot of women they wear multiple hats. Not that men don't, but I feel like we tend to wear more hats than men do. You know, we're mothers, and I feel as much as I think we've progressed in how much men are involved in child rearing and caregiving, but I do believe a lot of it still falls on women. So I think the flexibility where they can understand that, okay, you know, as a mother, I may need to step out because my son or my daughter is having issues at school, or there's something going on, and being able to be understanding and flexible and working sometimes on my terms or my schedule versus what is best for maybe the men I work with or the corporation. So I think a lot more women would probably look for leadership roles if they know that it could be more flexible and understanding. And if there's still women that are in the childbearing age where age where they may want to have more children, knowing that, okay, if I step away for that, you know, the 12 months, 18 months, I'm not going to be phased out. I'm not going to be, you know, whatever, because a guy took my spot and they will say he's not going to, you know, I know men are taking paternity leave and stuff, but, you know, are not feeling the need to have to rush back to work because I am in a leadership role. So it goes along with the flexibility. And also, I think because we are not more naturally nurturing, I think it's also being able to bring that nurturing side to work. You don't have to create a toxic environment. You don't have to be petty. You don't have to be tough in the sense where someone is feeling like they're being bullied, harassed. Like, what? Be more nurturing. You know, that leadership, the people skills, the interpersonal skills. Use that more. You know, like when I was working, I buy cakes and buy drinks and chips for my team, because I knew we were struggling with the pandemic. I knew that it was tough, and so what do you eat? Food is nurturing. Food makes us feel good, right? It's comforting. So I did that because I recognized that, hey, everybody likes food. Everybody likes whatever. And it makes us, it's one little thing to look forward to, and we made up reasons to celebrate. We were like, thank goodness it's Friday. Like, that's what I put on one of the cakes one time, you know? One time we discharged a very difficult patient. I bought a cake and it said, yay, you know, so, oh my God, I hope nobody's watching. But, you know, just that, you know, being able to lead in that way where it's like, you celebrate the small wins, you celebrate, so being the leader that celebrates things, right, and looks at people's qualities. And so I think that's what is needed in leadership for women or as women.
So that's perfect in the sense of when we think about our theme today and our topic today, live for a cause. And so it may not be as big as Harriet's cause, but just your little act of, I want to make my team happy is a cause. And not only does it give you a sense of teamwork, but it also makes you happy. And so what are those small things that we can do? We know, you know, some people may not want to step out there and be as big as Harriet, but what are some little things that we can do that's still a personal cause that we can give to each other to help us with those connections? And it doesn't have to be in the workplace. It could be, you know, anywhere amongst our friends or in any of the settings that we interact in. What are some suggestions that could possibly help for those who are listening today?
Me? Because
yes,
I can
Tolu.
Yes. I talk about showing up. You show up for your friends. You show up for your people you care about, or even acquaintances. So if someone is having a launch of whatever, you show up, you know, whether it's virtual or whatever, you're there. you support. You know, I had friends that went through some difficulties and I just showed up. I was there, I was able to help, and just be unconditional about, about your love, about your intent, like, and be intentional. Let them know that I care about you. I see you, I hear you. So if it means picking up a call in the middle of the night or going to the hospital with somebody, I mean, I know that's more difficult right now, but I've done all those things. I have been that, because I want people to know that when they feel like others may not care, I care. I always care. Now, is it at the cost of, is it detrimental to me? Yes. Am I overextending myself? Yes. But I think in the day, when I have friends that have, then when I needed them, they showed up for me because I did show up for them. So I think it's important. And then and I mean, like, just having hearing the testimonies, like, it's, you sometimes it's when people wait till you die, right, to talk about how good you've been or how whatever. But I've heard a few of my friends over the last few months be like, Tolu, thank you so much for always being there. You're such a good friend. You know, and then you're like, whoa. And I mean, I don't do it to be like for accolades. I do it because I genuinely care. So genuinely care for people. Don't let it be surface. Someone needs you, be there for them. You know, and I actually lost a good friend of mine earlier this year who, she was that one of those ones that I was able to be in the hospital with her when she was really sick during the summer. And I just try to show up for her. But the thing is, the night she died, I was sleeping and she had texted me. So I regret that, because I'm like, if I wasn't, and I slept early. She texted me at 10 something. Usually I'm still awake. But I slept early that night, and I'm like, this is why I don't sleep early, because people always feel like, and I'm telling you, like, I was like, maybe I would have gotten her to the hospital sooner, maybe, you live with that kind of regret. But this is why I tell people, show up whenever you can, whenever someone's asking, even if they're not asking, just show up for them.
Yes. And they need to have that knowledge that you are there. Even if you're not physically there, you are there. Yeah. Dave, would you like to add to that?
Well, first of all, Tolu, condolences.
Thank you.
Second, prayers for you to bring completion, that you did phenomenal, that you were a loving, caring friend. And that's what's beautiful about showing up. I have a couple other little phrases that go along with that, which you are an example of that, is show up, step up, and give back. And that's a nice little triumvirate of strategies. If people are looking for ways to make an impact, show up, step up, give back. And when you do that, I agree with this idea, is you do it fairly unconditionally, because you can give to somebody and it most likely will not come back from them. Yet there is this beautiful thing about the law of the universe, and that what we do give, it comes back, but where it comes back and when it comes back, we don't necessarily know. And that's one of the mysteries. And I invite people to find ways to enjoy the mysteries as they unfold. And by using the words mysteries or magic or miracles, this is one of the words that I'd love to share with everybody today, would be word medicine. And that words definitely have a vibration, they have a frequency. And that if one thing we chose to do was to really be precise with our words in 2021, we might let go of some words and we might welcome new words that will create new miracles. And that's, and with miracles, I also would throw in there, if I have a little extra sauce to throw in there, would be meditation and movement. So really get the opportunity to dance. Like, just imagine how you feel after a good dance, Tolu. It's like the energy just totally shifts, the vibration shifts. You can actually celebrate your friend, like celebrate her, celebrate God, celebrate and life. And that's what that dynamic does. And I think there's a miracle in your poetry. And then if you put it to motion, there's a beautiful gift to the planet. And I think that's one of the things, that these little beautiful impacts can have ripple effects. And I believe that if we're celebrating today a lady who passed over 100 years ago, we're celebrating different learnings that she impacted us. And then we're using that seed that she gave to us, and how it grows is also being shared today. And that's pretty cool, isn't it? And so I'm thankful that both of you decided to share some of the ideas, and I'm going to pass that question back to you, Sueanne. Share a little bit about some steps forward for people, leadership for women, unity and diversity. What's resonating with you as you bring in some of the lessons from Harriet Tubman?
So what's resonating for me is, as women, whether it's in the corporate world or within our families, it's predominantly, as Tolu had alluded to, being there and standing together. And it's giving that encouragement. So when someone is feeling down or is doubting where they need to do, or where what they want to move forward with, it's being that listening ear and reminding them of what their talents are and reminding them of all the things that they have achieved. Because oftentimes as women, we forget all the things that we have achieved. And it always takes just a friend or a sister or a mother or a grandmother to remind you that, hey, wait a minute, you know, you did this and you did this and you did this. So how can you sit there and say that, you know, you haven't done much when in fact you have done a lot? And so what I've been learning in a lot of the conferences and discussions that I'm hearing with women, mentorship and sponsorship is very key. Women supporting each other and sharing their experiences and some of the difficulties, not so much the challenges, but maybe there are some challenges, but some of the things that they had to overcome in order to, whether it's build your career. And much of it is self-reflection, accepting yourself for who you are. And so what I've been learning is not to be apologetic. So I've noticed that when I'm communicating with individuals, I'm not saying sorry as often as I used to in my communications. And so I'm learning to be more positive, more affirmative in my communications. And that is making a difference in my confidence as well, in terms of becoming a leader. In a conversation that I had with a male colleague a couple of years ago, and it took me by surprise because I was introducing some coworkers to the team. And he came out and said, Sueanne, he actually turned to the new colleagues and said, you two are lucky because Sueanne is a natural leader. I had never heard that before. And here was my male colleague telling these two new employees that Sueanne is a natural leader and you're going to benefit from learning from her. So it's that sort of feedback that as women, when you hear it, it does build your confidence. And so with that, I would like to ask both of you, and you can take your time in thinking about this. What are you most passionate about right now? And when you think about that, what are sort of the things that you're hoping to do in the next 6 to 9 months or next year based on those passions that you have going forward? Dave, do you want to start?
I'm going to shift the word from passion to excited. I've noticed that many people actually, they get into a rattle mode with passion and purpose. I don't know my purpose. I don't know my passion. So I tend to try to simplify it a little bit. What's exciting? And exciting things for me are about wellness. It really is about finding ways to assist people to be healthier, wealthier, and wiser. And healthy, wealthy, and wise is a little nuance, yet daily routines that serve my health and the health of others. And then wealthy and wise is the pursuit of learning, yet these days, a big part of that is relearning. And so I love to use the RE. And so that's re-energize, reimagine, recalibrate. And so if I could be part of a movement that allows people to really embrace this idea of because we really can live a wonderful life if we're willing, and I'm willing, to continue to grow as a leader, to grow as I go into the 60 generation. It's a re-engineering, reigniting, refocusing, and that's what excites me about the next 6 to 9 months, is being involved in some really cool projects with Mother Nature, with green, with young ones, with the elderly, that can really be impactful. Thank you for the question.
Tolu?
I'm excited because I am in the process of reinventing myself. So I'm trying to figure out, who am I really? Like, obviously I can say, I can list off a few things that I am, but I guess where am I going? What am I doing? And so I'm working on the music from, I'm discovering how it can get frustrating as you're trying to like accelerate things and people are not moving at your pace. And you're like, okay, so learning, how that works and to be patient, but yeah, working on releasing more songs, trying to get back into the songwriting mode, just all that kind of stuff. I'm really passionate about that. I'm also passionate about helping people more, whether through the organization I know Dave with, Voice of Men 360, or just through, counseling or whatever what it is. I'm always looking to be of help and to just help people to walk in their purpose and be more confident about who they are. So I'm passionate about that. So I'm thinking the next 8 to 9 months to a year, more music will be released from my label. I'll be helping even more people and just discovering more and more of who I am, what I'm capable of.
Yes, I know for myself, I'm also going through that process of I'm not sure if I want to use rebuilding, but I am reconnecting with a lot of things that I had lost touch with as a woman. And one of those things is the creativity, the creative side of myself. That is really a driving force and central to and core to myself in the way in which I express and communicate with those around me. And it's reflected in my writing as well, and it's reflecting in the work that I do. And so I feel that there is a lot that still is, unfolding. And I feel that, with Harriet Tubman and seeing all of the things that she had to go through, she was also reinventing herself with all the different changes that was going on at the time in which she lived. And so because we're coming to the final few minutes of today's discussion, what final words would you like to share as it relates to Harriet Tubman and her influence on women and people of color?
For me, I would say, don't let your skin color, don't let what people say define you. Don't be limited. Don't feel that you must stay in your lane. You must know your place, because what exactly is your lane? What exactly is your place? I believe that's up to you to define. I believe that's what Harriet Tubman did. She defined who she was. She kept changing. She kept evolving, right? From one thing to another to another. And she was able to save so many people and accomplish so much.
Tolu has paused. So Dave, would you like to add, and maybe we can get Tolu back?
Sure. I would like to say thank you to you and to Tolu and to any of our wonderful listeners or people who've asked questions today. And also to the spirit of Harriet Tubman, to have an icon, inspiration, somebody who I have a feeling really wanted to make an impact, and that's what she did. And that's what I guess I'm encouraged by the tenacity, the unstoppable bravery, the activities, and her natural way of stepping into leadership. and no one would have perhaps seen her and immediately put her into the leader category. Yet I guess that's what's beautiful about each of us, is that we can all be leaders and we can develop greater leadership skills. And by practicing and by being flexible and being curious, have a feeling there's going to be some wonderful projects for us to make a better or higher or impact in the near future. And even today is an example of communicating, inspiring, and making a difference. So thank you so very much. And I'll pass the question back to you, Sueanne, or you might pass it back to Tolu to finish.
I want her to finish because we kind of briefly lost you there. So if you'd like to finish your thoughts.
I don't know. What did you guys hear me say last? Is it froze and then it bumped me out? Actually, it just bumped me out and bumped me, and then it went back in. So
that's
what
okay.
did you guys hear me say last?
You were speaking about your writing of the music and things happening in the next 8 to 9 months.
Okay. Oh, I thought, okay. No, but then you had asked the question about what can we tell people? If that was the last question so you guys didn't hear me answer that question?
No.
Oh, okay. So, oh my God, because I was talking, then I'm like, it's frozen, and then I got bumped out. Okay, so can you ask that last question again about what would we tell people? I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, but I was answering that question, so I thought that's what you guys heard me say last.
So I was going to ask you, what are you most passionate about right now? And based on Dave's response, Dave was saying he wants to rephrase that a little bit and say excited. So what are you excited about? And what are the things that will help inspire not only women, but all people of color?
Okay, yeah, so about the music, just about helping people in general, just doing more, whether it's with Voice of Men 360 or in my own practice, but just trying to do more to help people to live their purpose and to recognize that they're more than who they think they are. And what I believe Harriet Tubman showed us and taught us is that you don't have to be defined by what people tell you. You don't have to listen to the naysayers. You don't have to be discouraged. If you feel that you have a purpose and that there is a higher calling for you, a higher purpose, then go for it. You may not start and drop everything at once, but take little steps, right? Take little steps to get yourself until you feel that, yes, this is it. I can maybe drop everything else now, or I can whatever and pursue this fully, but don't live in fear. If you're really feeling that conviction, go for it.
So to wrap up our conversation, Harriet Tubman for me, and her inspiration for me, is that you are not the sum of the environment that you're born into. That is not who you are. And so we started this conversation with live for a cause. She found her cause early in life. We go through various changes in our lives, and we don't discover our cause and purpose until sometimes later in our lives, based on the circumstances that happen. And because we are not a sum total of the environments that we are born into, and because we realize we are more than what others say about us, I'd like to close off today's discussion with another quote from Harriet Tubman that says, and she said in her words, "Every great dream begins with a dreamer." And so I feel each of us, when we come into this world, we come with a dream, but at different stages of our lives, we don't realize that dream until certain things happen to us. But yet we know there is something within us that we have to move towards and achieve. So thank you very much, Tolu. Thank you very much, Dave, for today's conversation, Live for a Cause, in recognition and celebration of Black History Month. And thank you everyone who has been listening. Have a great morning, have a great afternoon and evening. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us, Sueanne.